What's up, guys? Hey, long time no see. Today I'm going to basically just move my block that I have in the truck onto the engine stand. So I got a lot I got to fill you guys in on. Let's get to it. Okay, so since I've been inactive on the channel, I have since put a K20Z1 in here. I just bought it about a month ago, and I just started it up 2 weeks ago, and I got it fully tuned. And unfortunately, I bought the engine that had a faint rod knock. It was from Tay Used Auto Parts. So if you're buying from them, just kind of be aware that you could possibly get a bad engine, and they have so many disclaimers, like it has to be installed by the manufacturer. So I had to basically take it to Acura in order for them to warranty anything. So just be aware when you're buying from Tay Used Auto. My transmission has pretty much been perfect. It's got the Wave Track LSD in it. Pretty much fully rebuilt now, so everything's good here. I've also removed the ABS. If I move this out the way, you could see the brake proportioning valve. I used braided lines there. I don't really have enough lighting right now. I can pull that off, but I don't want to get my hands dirty yet. But yeah, I've already taken everything apart. It's ready to come back out. I'm just either gonna buy an engine lift, or I'm gonna borrow my buddy's engine lift or hoist or whatever you want to call it, and then take this baby out. Here's my old A2 that you guys have seen in the videos so much. It's gonna be getting fully built, so I'm not gonna be using parts from this engine to fix this one with the rod knock. I'm just going to be fully building that one. The head's all the way over there in the corner. So this is what I'm going to be putting my K20Z1 head over there. I'm going to be putting it on this short block right here. As you can see, has rods, pistons in it, and of course a crank in there. But yeah, so I'm going to be basically using this block, and I tried to check for play as best I could to make sure I don't have any more rod knock issues. So hopefully I can have a good motor. Once I have a good motor, the transmission's perfect, so this thing will last for a long time, and I can get started on suspension and we start hitting the real racetracks. All right, let me go ahead and get started taking that one off the engine stand and putting this guy on the engine stand. Alright, so the task for today is done. I just moved the block over onto the engine stand. Now I'm going to start cleaning it. Get this guy looking about as clean as that transmission's over there. Engine's not that dirty, but I'm going to get this one cleaner. So, have me a clean engine bay for once, maybe. K20Z1. So, I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Mugen Head Gasket, which will bump the compression ratio to a 11.4 to 1, because these guys right here, they came with a 11.0 to 1, so 11 to 1. That should give me a couple more ponies on top of the ponies I already got. As you guys may or may not know, but the Type R motor, the K20A Type R motor, actually has 11.5 to 1. So this will basically have the same compression ratio as a Type R motor. So that's where I'm going with it. I'm still going to be NA. I'm still going to be full bolt-ons for now until that motor is built, and then that will be the big one. And then I'll just have to have another car to swap the old K20 into. And I'm thinking about an EM2. So you guys let me know. Alright, so today I'm just doing some cleaning. I got some brake cleaner. Brake cleaner I've already been doing a little bit. As you can see, it looks a lot better from yesterday. So Update. So update, I just talked to Tay Used Auto Parts this morning. They're gonna give me a call back tomorrow morning. I might be getting at least the money that I spent back on this, getting this short block. So if I can just get that money back, that would be great. It just pretty much put me right back where I was instead of putting me in a hole. So I'll keep you guys posted on that, and hopefully they follow through. All right, I'm gonna continue cleaning this. K20 Z1, baby. All right, so this is what a little bit of cleaning is done. All right. Also did a little bit of the head. But this head's gonna go on it. This is where I had spun rod bearing, so I'm just gonna take this head and put it over here, and I cleaned it off a little bit. All right, guys. So another day. I just got the engine slightly pulled out, which I'm gonna show you guys. Right now, I'm still waiting for a Mugen Head Gasket, and I'll go into detail about why I'm using a Mugen Head Gasket later. I'm about to get some pictures to send back to Tay Used Auto Parts, see if I can get at least refunded for the block that I went down to Houston to go get. So let's check it out. All right, so here's where I'm at so far. Basically just disconnected everything. As I pull it out, I'm making sure that it clears. Pull the axles out, of course. All right, let me go ahead and get the rest of this thing out. Okay, so I got everything out of the car, and now I'm just gonna start swapping parts over from here onto this bad boy. And this is what's left of the rod bearing on this one, which is why I had to go. All right, guys, I'm just waiting for some parts to come in and slowly start seeing me switch this over. All right, so as you guys can see, I started painting. I got a little bit of a smudge right there, but not too concerned, but yeah, it is what it is. So yeah, started painting it. And chain case over here. And this is the old engine, still taking stuff off of it just to move it over. PRC cans. Oh yeah, and here's. All right, so more progress. I went ahead and took the oil pan off of this one, and maybe a couple more components like the knock sensor and the starter, and just waiting for the Mugen Head Gasket to get here, and then I'll move the head over. this is what I got so far. I'll put that one back and put a thumbtack in there. Painted the starter. I didn't really pay too much attention to the starter because starters come and go, so I might be getting rid of that one soon. All right. Oh yeah, and we're gonna be painting this oil pan too, and I need to get all the little metal shavings out of it, and so I need some more brake cleaner. I ran out. Alright, so this is the last thing I'm going to paint. I put 2 coats on it. So I'm not going to paint the head because really all that connects are the that's the intake side. And then you have the header side, which that's all you're really going to see on the head is the header and the intake and a valve cover. So I won't really bother painting the head. Yeah, that's about it. Still waiting for the Mugen Head Gasket and then the head bolts. And then I got a new oil pump. That oil pump I had on here failed. Looks like the gear was rubbing up against the housing, and there's a lot of resistance to spinning the gear. So I think that oil pump's done, so I got another oil pump on the way, and then we'll be ready to go. All right, so I'm back. I got oil pump, got a oil pressure gauge. Not playing games anymore, so gotta wire this up. These are gonna be head bolts, brand new. So I'm gonna go ahead and get it put on here, get some more stuff done. Still waiting on the Mugen Head Gasket. All right, baffle plates on. Of course, these 3 and then another 3 bolts right here. Baffle plate, oil pump's about to go on. There's 3 bolts for the oil pump. There's 1 and 2, and then 3, no, I think this is 3, yeah, 3 right here. Okay, so, all right, and then I'm gonna tension up the oil pump chain and all that good stuff. All right, so I got another oil pump, a brand new one. The other oil pump failed. There's not too much complexity to a Type S or RSX oil pump, because it's not just Type S. The K20 A3 in the base has the same oil pump as the Type S model, but the K20 A3 in the Civic Si has a oil pump with balance shafts. So always keep that in mind. But as I was saying, there's not too much complexity with these oil pumps from the Type S model. Basically, you have a release spring that can fail and a little rotor with a gear. And basically you have to have a clearance between the rotor and the inside of the rotor, the inner and outer rotor. And you also need to have a good clearance between the housing of the oil pump and that same little gear rotor. So on mine, I think it worn down, most likely because of the oil shavings or whatnot, started a process. You got to look at these things like a snowball effect. Like if you get like metal shavings in between your rod bearings, you know, it scrapes it. And then once that scrape happens, you just have a snowball effect of it getting worse and worse and worse. And then finally it just gets to the point of failure, especially if you're racing the car. Maybe if you're daily driving, you can go a while with it not completely annihilating itself. But if you're racing, hold on. Let me get something to get past this plastic. All right, so yeah, brand new oil pump from Honda. It's just as shiny as my engine right now. Now I'm going to add the baffle to it to prevent oil from sloshing over onto this side and the left-hand turns. So let me go ahead and get started with that. All right, so as you can see, I put the baffle back on the oil pump. These are the doors that let the oil back over on this side. Made sure I cleaned up all little bitty tiny little metal shards. Make sure there's no metal shards. So here's the other side of the oil pump. So this is like a spring right here. So basically you just pinch it together and it puts a force pushing this way. And also you want to make sure this thing is on the crank, because you can actually pull this out. So you just want to make sure it's attached so it spins with the crank before you put everything back together, of course. So I'm just waiting on the Mugen Head Gasket so I can do the rest. No sense in putting everything else like the guide that goes right here, because I can't use the third bolt yet, and no sense in putting the oil pan back on because I still don't have this chain case on this side that needs to have a gasket or a sealant that goes with the oil pan as well. So I'll just wait until I have the chain case on before I actually seal up the oil pan. But I'll probably just put the oil pan on top of it just to have it sitting, so it doesn't have to sit on the floor. One less thing on the floor. So I'll probably just put the oil pan on just for that. But I'm not gonna seal it up or put all the bolts back in. So, oh, look at that oil right there on my cleanness. Oh man. Oily, oily, oily. It's already getting dirty. Alright. Okay. Yeah. It's gonna be a track car, so cleanliness is not my biggest concern. You know, just one little bit of clean, but not that big deal. All that's tight. All right, next up, I'm gonna try to figure out what location I wanna put this inside the car. Wish they gave me a little bit more length of the wire so I don't have to tie onto it, but I might have to tie into this just to get, because I need to find an ignition voltage, basically a 12 volts that's sent when the ignition's turned on versus always having voltage, so this thing's not always on unless the car's on. So all right, that's what I'm gonna do now. All right, so video is a little dark, but this is where the oil pressure gauge is going, right there. I was gonna put it over here, but I still wanna have like heat in case it's ever super cold. So I can still get some heat. And this one always burns my finger, so I hated it anyway. Whenever I turn the heater on, my finger on the steering wheel, it burns it. So F that one, I'm gonna just use that one for this guy. And it's right in my face, so it works out. Already sent the oil pressure sender is already out here. I just gotta hook up the hose to the back. I'm gonna run a hose from here, and then it's gonna go to the firewall, and from there I'll have a T-brass, and I will hook up the stock oil pressure sensor And I will also hook up this one as well. So I'm not getting rid of the stock oil pressure sensor. It'll still be hooked up and functional. All right, so it started raining on me. So I'm gonna close up shop, but I got the hose. This is the hose I was talking about that's gonna run to the firewall and then hook up to both oil pressure senders. So I put some silver gasket, basically the equivalent of Honda Bond right there. So that's all for today. I went ahead and covered that up because I don't want my block to get rusty. So, all right, time to close this thing down. All right, so here's where I'm at. Cams are out, rollers, rockers out. Don't have to take the valves out. I just gotta get the head bolts, crisscross motion, yada yada yada, and then they gotta go on there. Lost, see these springs here, that's lost motion access springs that you need for VTEC. Alright, also if you ever take these out, be careful about the springs that sit in between these rockers. They pop out on you easy. If I was to not put this right back on, I would actually zippy tie these together to keep them pinched together so the springs don't try to come out. So just be careful about that. All right, so the 2-layer Mugen Head Gasket. Basically this will bump up the compression by 0.4, 0.5. So I'll be at 11.4 to 1 compression ratio with this. Oh yeah, here's my stock one goes on this side and the aftermarket oil pressure will go on this side. So, bad boy's about ready to go. Here's my head sitting over here. I just cleaned it a little bit, not too much. It's not a big deal. All right, let's get this thing on. All right, so basically there was 2 studs I had. I just put the studs in the block so it helped me line up the gasket. And I saw the gasket was lined up perfectly with the diameter of the cylinders. So I just steadied the head on top of the studs, and then the studs help it to be settled down where it's supposed to be settled down. So now to put the head bolts in. All right, so I've been trying to do the timing. I don't know if it's because of the Mugen head gasket, but as you can see, the arrow is lined up. But up here, it's off a little bit, just a little bit. Not a tooth, but just a little bit. So I don't know if that's because of the Mugen head gasket, and that's probably just gonna have to be cleared up with tuning. So, all right, finally looking like an engine. Got the chain case on. Gotta put the crank pulley back on. Got the cams back on, rockers. All right, just a little bit more to go. We'll be ready to drop in. All right, so this is all I'm doing for tonight. I need to get a pulley tool so I can tighten it the right way. Supposed to be 36 foot-pounds and then a 90-degree angle added onto it. And then I'll just throw in the spark plugs, which I left over there. And then I'll put the dirty valve cover on so it doesn't get, my good valve cover doesn't get scratched up when I use the hoist. And I have the stock one on there, and the other one's gonna go in there, which is right there, so I'll put that on later. this bad boy is ready to go. We just need to swap the lightweight flywheel and pressure plate and clutch. Alright folks, this thing is up in here. I'm gonna put my battery where it always hangs, right here. It's laying over there on the floor next to my other engine parts. But yeah, this thing is together and it is mounted in the car. So now all I gotta do is just connect the hoses, collect the electronics and shifter cables, and tighten down the slave cylinder. Then she'll be back alive. Alright, here's the startup. Alright, so this is the rev test, just to make sure we don't have any loose rod bearings. Make sure we're neutral. Here we go. Alright, I'd say we're pretty good. Idle 10 psi. That's oil pressure.